The New Horizon drifted through space like a tiny metal box against the endless black. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the alien ship grow larger on his main screen. The hegemony vessel looked like a giant spear with weapons. Sticking out from every side, it was 10 times bigger than his research ship. "They're asking permission to board, Captain," said Communications Officer Lucy Davis. Her voice stayed calm, but Jake could see her hands shaking slightly as she worked her controls. Jake nodded. "Tell them yes. We have nothing to hide." That was not entirely true. The New Horizon carried equipment that most aliens had never seen before, but it was all disguised to look simple and basic. The humans had learned long ago that looking weak was often safer than looking strong. Dr. Lisa Grant walked onto the bridge carrying a data pad. She was the ship's science officer, a woman in her 30s, with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. "All our research samples are secured, Captain. Everything looks normal." "Good," Jake said. "Remember, we're just a simple exploration ship. We found some interesting rocks and plants. Nothing more." Engineer Pete Collins looked up from his station. "All systems are running at basic levels, sir. The engines look old and slow. The weapons are offline. We're just what we appear to be." Jake smiled. Pete was good at his job. The ship's real engines could push them faster than most military vessels. The weapons could punch holes through battleships. But right now, everything looked like standard civilian equipment. The alien ship moved closer. Jake could see the dark metal hull and the red lights that marked hegemony warships. He had dealt with these inspections before. The hegemony thought they owned this part of space. They stopped human ships whenever they wanted to make sure humans were not getting too bold. "Captain," Lucy said, "they're launching a shuttle. 6 aliens coming aboard." Jake straightened his uniform. "All right, people. Remember the rules. Be polite. Answer their questions. Don't give them any reason to cause trouble." The crew nodded. They had all been through this before. The hegemony liked to push humans around. They thought humans were weak and stupid. It was better to let them think that than to show them the truth. 20 minutes later, the airlock opened. Commander Zektar stepped onto the New Horizon. He was 7 feet tall, with green, scaly skin and yellow eyes. His uniform was covered with medals and rank symbols. Behind him came 5 soldiers carrying energy rifles. Jake walked forward with his hands empty and visible. "Welcome aboard the New Horizon, Commander. I'm Captain Jake Morrison.
Oh.
Can we help you today?" Zektar looked down at Jake with obvious disgust. "This is a routine inspection. Human, you will show me everything on this ship. You will answer all my questions. You will not waste my time." "Of course, Commander. We're happy to cooperate." "What?" Inspection began in the cargo bay. Jake led the aliens through the ship, showing them containers of rock samples and plant specimens. Dr. Grant explained their research in simple terms, making it sound boring and unimportant. Zektar picked up random items and examined them. He seemed disappointed that everything looked so normal. "What is this?" he asked, pointing to a small metal device. "A soil analyzer," Lisa said. "It tells us what minerals are in dirt samples." The device was actually a molecular scanner that could identify any substance at the atomic level. But it looked like a simple tool, and Lisa's explanation satisfied the alien commander. They moved through the ship slowly. Zektar questioned everything. Why were they in this sector? What were they looking for? Who gave them permission to be here? Jake answered every question politely and completely. In the engine room, Pete showed the aliens the ship's power systems. "Basic fusion reactor," he said. "Nothing special. Gets us from place to place." Zektar nodded. The engines looked old and simple. He had no idea they were actually advanced matter-antimatter systems that could outrun his warship. The inspection went on for 2 hours. Zektar grew more frustrated as he found nothing suspicious. The humans were exactly what they appeared to be. A weak species flying around in a slow ship, collecting rocks. "Your research permit?" Zektar demanded. "Show me your authorization to be in hegemony space." Jake handed over a datapad with their official documents. Everything was legal and properly filed. The hegemony had given them permission to explore this area 6 months ago, Zektar read through the permit carefully, looking for any reason to cause problems. "This equipment," he said, pointing to a list on the document. "Where is the quantum resonance detector?" Jake felt his stomach tighten. The quantum detector was locked away in a hidden compartment. It was technology that the hegemony would never understand, and they could not be allowed to see it. "We had some problems with that device," Jake said carefully. "It broke down 3 weeks ago. We're taking it back to Earth for repairs." "Show me this broken equipment." Jake's mind raced. He needed to think of something fast. "It's in the workshop, completely taken apart. Just spare parts now." Zektar's eyes narrowed. "I will see these parts." Jake led the aliens to the workshop. Pete had prepared for this possibility. The room was filled with random electronic components spread across several tables. It looked like someone had taken apart a complex device. "Humans," Zektar said with a sneer. "You cannot even maintain your own equipment properly." "Or not." "Very good with advanced technology," Jake said, playing his role perfectly. "That's why we're just collecting simple samples, instead of doing real science." The alien commander seemed satisfied with this explanation. Humans were known throughout the galaxy for being primitive and clumsy. It made sense that they would break their own equipment, but then Dr. Grant made a small mistake. As they left the workshop, she moved to protect a delicate instrument from being knocked over. The movement was quick and precise, the reaction of someone who understood exactly how valuable and sophisticated the device really was. Zektar saw it. His yellow eyes focused on Lisa, then on the instrument she had protected. "What is that device?" "Just a spectrometer," Lisa said quickly, "for analyzing rock samples." Zektar moved closer to examine it. The device looked innocent enough, but something about the way the human female had protected it made him suspicious. "Turn it on. Show me how it works." Lisa's hands moved over the controls. The machine hummed to life, displaying simple readouts that meant nothing important. But Zektar was not satisfied. He had noticed something in her movements, something that suggested she knew far more about this equipment than she was admitting. "You handle this device like an expert," he said slowly. "I've been using spectrometers for 15 years, Lisa replied. "You get good at it after a while." But Zektar's suspicion was growing. He began asking more detailed questions about their research. Why this particular system? What made these planets interesting? Who was funding their expedition? Jake answered carefully, but he could see that the alien commander was no longer satisfied with simple explanations. Zektar was starting to think that maybe these humans were not as primitive as they appeared. "Captain," Zektar said finally, "I think you are hiding something from me." "I think this ship is not what it appears to be, Commander. I assure you we're just researchers. We have nothing to hide." "Not lie to me, human." Zektar's voice rose in anger. "I have been inspecting ships for 20 years. I know when someone is trying to deceive me." The tension in the room grew thick. Jake could see his crew getting nervous. They had trained for this situation, but it was always dangerous when an alien inspector became suspicious. "Commander, please," Jake said, keeping his voice calm. "Look around. We're just a small research ship. What could we possibly be hiding?" But Zektar was not listening to reason anymore. His pride was hurt. It felt like these primitive humans were making him look foolish. That was something he could not allow. "I am confiscating your research equipment," he announced. "All of it. You will return to human space immediately." "Can't do that," Jake said, finally showing some backbone. "We have legal permits." "Haven't broken any laws?" That was when Zektar lost his temper completely. No human should dare to question his authority. These weak, pathetic creatures needed to remember their place in the galaxy. He stepped forward and shoved Jake hard against the bulkhead. Jake's head struck the metal wall with a loud crack. He slumped to the floor, blood trickling from a cut above his left eye. The other humans stared in shock. Dr. Grant moved to help their captain, but one of the hegemony soldiers pointed his rifle at her. "Stay back," the soldier ordered. Zektar looked down at the bleeding human with satisfaction. "Let this be a lesson," he said loudly. "Humans serve at the pleasure of the hegemony. You exist because we allow it. Remember that." Jake struggled to his feet. one hand pressed against his injured head. Blood was running down his face, but his eyes were clear and angry. "You'll regret this," he said quietly. Zektar laughed. "Will I? What can you possibly do to me, human? Your species is weak. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are toys. You are nothing." What Zektar did not know was that every word of this conversation was being transmitted to 3 human warships, hiding just outside sensor range. In 5 minutes, after his hand struck Jake Morrison, Commander Zektar would discover just how wrong he was about human weakness. 3 million miles away from the New Horizon, Admiral Sam Carter sat in his command chair aboard the Liberty. The massive warship floated in complete silence, its hull black as space itself. Every system ran on minimal power to avoid detection. To any alien sensors, this area of space was completely empty. Sam was 60 years old, with gray hair and cold blue eyes. He had fought in 12 major battles against alien forces. He had seen too many human ships destroyed and too many good people killed by species that thought humans were weak and easy targets. "Admiral," said Commander Amy Stone from her tactical station, "we're receiving the live feed from Captain Morrison's ship." Sam nodded. "Put it on the main screen." The bridge of the Liberty came alive with activity. Officers at dozens of stations watched as the hegemony inspection played out on their monitors. They could see everything that was happening aboard. The New Horizon through hidden cameras built into the ship's walls. "Those are some ugly-looking lizards," muttered Lieutenant Roy Palmer from the weapons console. "Stay focused," Amy warned. "This is a standard inspection so far. Nothing unusual." But Sam had a bad feeling about this one. He'd watched hundreds of these inspections over the years. The hegemony commander seemed more aggressive than usual, more suspicious, more likely to cause trouble. "Commander Stone," Sam said, "bring all weapon systems to standby mode. Do it quietly." Amy's fingers moved over her controls. Throughout the Liberty, massive guns and missile launchers began to charge their power systems. The ship's nuclear arsenal came online. Plasma cannons started their warm-up cycles. But everything happened in complete silence, with no energy signatures that alien sensors could detect. "Weapons ready, Admiral?" "All systems show green." Sam kept watching the inspection. He saw the alien commander grow more frustrated as he found nothing suspicious aboard the human ship. It should have been good news, but Sam knew better. Frustrated aliens often did stupid things. On the tactical display, 2 other ships appeared as friendly contacts. The Ghost Rider was positioned on the far side of the New Horizon, completely invisible to alien sensors. The Iron Wolf held position above the inspection site, its fighter squadrons ready to launch. "Ghost Rider reports ready for boarding action," Amy said. "Iron Wolf has 24 fighters armed and waiting." Sam nodded, but kept his attention on the main screen. Captain Morrison was handling the inspection well. His crew was playing their roles perfectly. Everything looked normal and boring, exactly as it should. But then the alien commander started asking about missing equipment. Sam could see Jake getting nervous as he tried to explain why they did not have a quantum detector. The story was believable, but the alien was getting suspicious, Admiral Amy said quietly. "The lizard's body language is changing. He's moving into an aggressive posture." Sam had noticed it too. Commander Zektar was no longer just annoyed. He was starting to think that the humans were lying to him. That was dangerous. Aliens who felt deceived often turned violent. "Signal the other ships," Sam ordered. "Condition yellow. Prepare for immediate action." Throughout the small human fleet, crews began final preparations. On the Ghost Rider, Captain Nick Turner checked his sidearm and reviewed the boarding plan one more time. His ship was designed for exactly this kind of operation: fast, quiet, and deadly. "Sergeant Brooks," Nick said to his Marine commander, "how long do you need to secure the boarding party?" Lex Kelly Brooks was a tough woman with short black hair and scars on her arms from previous battles. She had led successful boarding actions against 6 different alien species. "Give me 3 minutes, Captain. Maybe less if they're bunched up. You'll have whatever time you need," Nick replied. "The moment they touch our captain, they're dead." On the Iron Wolf squadron leader, Ben Hayes, sat in his fighter cockpit, engines idling. His squadron of 12 stealth fighters could destroy the hegemony patrol ship in seconds. But the real targets were the support vessels that would arrive later. Phoenix Squadron ready for launch, Ben reported to the carrier's bridge. All pilots report weapons armed and locked. Lieutenant Sophie. Clark checked her plasma torpedo launcher one more time. The experimental weapons could punch through any known alien shields. Each fighter carried 4 of them, enough to cripple a battleship. Iron Wolf confirms all squadrons ready, came the reply from the carrier. Wait for the Admiral's signal. Ack! On the Liberty, Sam watched the situation grow worse. A Lalian commander was now demanding to confiscate human equipment. Jake was trying to argue, but Sam could see where this was heading. Amy, he said quietly, start the countdown. Amy's tactical display began showing a timer, counting down from 5 minutes. Everyone on the bridge knew what it meant. Human military doctrine was very clear about what happened when aliens attacked human personnel. The response was swift, decisive, and overwhelming. 4 minutes 50 seconds, Amy announced. On the main screen, they watched Commander Zektar grow angrier. The alien was clearly losing his temper. His soldiers were getting nervous, which made them more likely to do something stupid. Admiral, said Communications Officer Dan Fisher, should I try to contact Captain Morrison? Warn him somehow? Sam shook his head. Jake knows the situation. Any attempt to communicate now might give us away. He'll handle this. For minutes, Amy called out. Sam had fought alongside Jake Morrison for 15 years. The man was a good captain and a skilled diplomat, but he was also proud, and he would not let aliens push him around forever. Sam just hoped Jake could keep his temper under control for a few more minutes. But then Zektar announced he was confiscating all the research equipment. That was going too far, even for a routine harassment. Jake finally pushed back, telling the alien commander that he could not do that. 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Sam leaned forward in his chair. This was the critical moment. How would the alien respond to human defiance? Most hegemony officers were bullies who backed down when challenged. But some were different. Some took any resistance as a personal insult. Commander Zektar was clearly one of the dangerous ones. 3 minutes the alien stepped toward Jake with obvious anger. Sam could see what was about to happen, but there was nothing he could do to stop it. Any action now would reveal the human fleet's presence and ruin their strategic advantage. Get ready, Sam said quietly. Every officer on the Liberty tensed. They all knew the rules. They all knew what came next. Commander Zektar shoved at Jake Morrison. Against the bulkhead. Hard. Jake's head struck metal with a sound that carried clearly through the audio feed. Blood began running down their captain's face. Contact, Amy announced. Physical assault on human personnel confirmed. Beginning final countdown. The timer on her display changed from yellow to red. 5 minutes. That was how long aliens who hurt humans had to live. It was not a law or a regulation. It was just the way things worked. Signal all ships, Sam ordered. Weapons free. Execute. On my command, throughout the small fleet, final preparations began. On the Ghost Rider teleporter systems locked onto the alien boarding party, Captain Turner and his Marines checked their weapons one last time. For minutes, 30 seconds, until execution. Amy reported. Sam watched Jake struggle to his feet, blood streaming down his face. The alien commander was laughing, making jokes about human weakness. His soldiers were relaxing, thinking the show was over. They had no idea that their lives were now measured in minutes. Admiral, said Lieutenant Palmer from Weapons, all gun batteries report ready. Nuclear arsenal is armed and targeted. We can take out their entire patrol fleet in the first salvo, good, Sam replied. But remember, we want prisoners. The boarding party gets captured alive. Patrol ships get disabled, not destroyed. We need them to carry a message back to their people. 4 minutes, Amy announced. On the main screen, Commander Zektar was still gloating over his victory. He had put the humans in their place. Had shown them who was really in charge. He felt proud of himself for teaching them a lesson about hegemony superiority. Admiral Dan said from communications, I'm picking up transmissions from the hegemony patrol fleet. They're asking for a status report from the boarding party. How long until they arrive? Sam asked. 2 hours at their current speed. Sam smiled coldly. They're going to be very surprised when they get here. 3 minutes 30 seconds. The alien commander was now ordering his soldiers to begin confiscating equipment. They were taking devices that had cost humanity millions of credits to develop, technology that had taken decades to perfect. They thought they could just steal it because humans were too weak to stop them. 3 minutes. Sam had seen this same scene play out dozens of times over the years. Alien species pushing humans around because they thought there would be no consequences. Taking human property, insulting human dignity, sometimes even killing human citizens. Those days were about to end. Admiral Amy said, Ghost Rider reports. Teleporter lock acquired. It can extract the boarding party any time. Tell them to wait for the signal, Sam replied. Everything happens at once. No warnings, no second chances. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. On the screen, Jake was trying to reason with the alien commander. He was explaining that the equipment was needed for their research, that taking it would violate several treaties. The universe shifted around Commander Zektar without warning. One moment he was standing on the human research ship, feeling proud of putting the weak humans in their place. The next moment, everything changed. A shadow fell across the new horizon. Something massive had appeared right next to them. Zektar looked up through the nearest window and saw a wall of black metal stretching in every direction. The human ship looked like a toy next to whatever had just arrived. What is that? One of his soldiers whispered. Before Zektar could answer, bright lights surrounded him and his boarding party. The lights felt warm and tingly against his scales. Then the world disappeared. When his vision cleared, Zektar found himself standing in a white room. The walls glowed with soft light from hidden sources. The air smelled clean and sterile.
Ow.
5 soldiers stood around him, looking just as confused as he felt. Where are we? Sergeant Krell asked, raising his energy rifle. Zektar looked around the room. There were no windows, no doors that he could see. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of smooth metal that reflected their images. Everything was clean and bright and completely alien to his experience. Some kind of transporter, he said slowly. That's impossible. Humans don't have that technology. A section of the wall slid open with a soft whisper. 2 figures walked into the room wearing full combat armor. The armor was black and sleek, making them look larger and more dangerous than normal humans. Red lights glowed where their eyes should be. Commander Zektar, the first figure said in perfect hegemony standard. Welcome aboard the Ghost Rider. Zektar's jaw dropped. The human was speaking his language better than most hegemony citizens. How was that possible? Humans were supposed to be too stupid to learn alien languages properly. I am Captain Nick Turner, the human continued, his voice carrying through speakers in his armor. You are now prisoners of the Human Defense Force. It is outrageous, Zektar roared. You cannot detain hegemony officers. I demand to speak to your superior. The second armored figure stepped forward. This one was smaller, probably female. I am Sergeant Kelly Brooks. You are charged with assault on a human citizen and violation of interspecies law. Zektar laughed, but it sounded forced even to his own ears. You think you can intimidate me with your little costume party? Humans are weak. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are toys. Captain Turner tilted his head slightly. Is that what you think? The walls around them suddenly became transparent. Zektar could see outside the ship now, and what he saw made his blood turn cold. The human vessel they were on was enormous, sleek and black. It looked like a blade cutting through space. Weapons that he had never seen before studied its hull. But that was not the worst part. Through the transparent walls, he could see 2 other human ships. One was a massive battleship that dwarfed his own patrol vessel. The other was some kind of carrier, with small fighters swarming around it like angry insects. This is impossible, Zektar whispered. Humans don't have ships like this, don't we? Turner asked. Tell me, Commander, what do you really know about humanity? Before Zektar could answer, the wall displayed information that made his head spin. Star charts showing human space, but not the small cluster of systems he was familiar with. This map showed a vast network spanning dozens of sectors, hundreds of worlds, thousands of ships. "You're lying," Zektar said, but his voice shook. "These are false images, propaganda." Sergeant Brooks touched something on her armor. Suddenly Zektar could hear radio transmissions. Hundreds of them, human voices speaking in dozens of languages, coordinating movements across multiple star systems. Ship status reports, fleet positions, military communications on a scale that suggested a civilization far larger than anyone imagined. Bridge to Captain Turner came a voice from the armor's speakers. "Admiral Carter is requesting a status update, Admiral," Zektar repeated. "Humans had admirals. How many ships did it take to need an admiral?" Turner touched his helmet. "Oh. The Admiral, we have secured the prisoners. Beginning interrogation now." Zektar felt something cold settle in his stomach. These humans were talking like they had done this before. Like capturing hegemony officers was routine business, but that was impossible. Humans never fought back. They were peaceful and weak. And ... the wall display changed again. This time it showed technical specifications that made Zektar's head hurt. Engine capabilities that exceeded anything in the hegemony fleet. Weapons that operated on principles his scientists considered theoretical. Defensive systems that could stop attacks from entire battle groups. "None of this is real," he said desperately. "Humans are primitive. We barely understand basic spaceflight." Captain Turner was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was colder than the void between stars. "Commander, your people have been inspecting our ships for 50 years. In all that time, did you ever wonder why we always cooperated? Why we never resisted? Why we always seemed so helpless?" Zektar had wondered about that, actually. Most species fought back when the hegemony pushed them around. But humans always just accepted whatever treatment they received, it assumed. It was because they were too weak to resist. "Because you are cowards," he said, trying to sound confident. "No," Turner replied. "Because we were studying you." The wall display changed again. This time it showed detailed scans of hegemony ships. Every system mapped. Every weakness identified. Battle plans for destroying entire fleets. The humans knew more about hegemony technology than most hegemony engineers. "Every time you boarded one of our ships," Turner continued, "we learned more about you. Your weapons, your tactics, your psychology. We have been watching and learning and preparing for 50 years. Sergeant Brooks stepped forward. "Did you really think we were just going to let you push us around forever?" Zektar's mind raced. If this was true, if humans were really this advanced, then everything he knew about the galaxy was wrong. The hegemony based their entire strategy on the assumption that humans were weak and divided. If they were actually strong and unified, why, he asked, why hide your true capabilities? Turner removed his helmet, revealing a human face that was younger than Zektar had expected. But the eyes were old and hard, the eyes of someone who had seen too much violence. "Because the galaxy was not ready to know what we were capable of," Turner said. "Because we preferred peace to war. Because we hoped that other species would learn to respect us without us having to force that respect. But you just proved we—" "We're right," Zektar said desperately. "You were aggressive. You were dangerous." "No," Turner replied calmly. "We are responsive. You attacked one of our people. We responded. That's not aggression. That's consequence." The wall display now showed the current tactical situation. The hegemony patrol fleet was still hours away, completely unaware that their advance team had vanished. When they arrived, they would find 3 human warships waiting for them. Ships that could destroy the entire patrol group without breaking a sweat. "What do you want?" Zektar asked. "We want you to carry a message back to your people," Turner said. "The age of pushing. Humans around is over. You can choose to learn that lesson the easy way or the hard way." Through the transparent walls, Zektar could see the new horizon. The small research ship looked undamaged. Captain Morrison was standing on his bridge, a bandage covering the cut on his head. He was talking to someone on his communication system, probably reporting the situation to his superiors. "One human was hurt," Zektar said. One minor injury. You're overreacting to a small incident. Sergeant Brooks laughed, but there was no humor in it. Commander, you have no idea how small an incident this really is. If you want to see us overreact, hurt 10 humans. Or 100. See what happens then. The implications of her words hit Zektar like a physical blow. If humans could respond this quickly and decisively to one injured captain, what would they do if someone actually killed human civilians, or attacked a human colony, or threatened Earth itself? You're bluffing, he said weakly. Turner touched his helmet again. Ghost Rider to Liberty. Request permission to show the prisoner our full capabilities. New voice answered, older and colder than Turner's. Permission granted, Captain. Give him the full tour. The walls around them changed again. Now Zektar could see inside the massive battleship called Liberty. Hundreds of humans worked at stations he did not recognize. Weapons that looked like they could crack planets, charged with barely contained energy. The ship was not just big, it was powerful beyond anything he had ever imagined. That's Admiral Carter, Turner explained. He's been fighting aliens who underestimate humanity for 40 years. He's gotten very good at correcting their mistakes. The display showed more ships now, dozens of them appearing out of nowhere as they dropped their stealth systems. Human vessels of every size and type, all armed with weapons that defied current understanding of physics. They had been hiding in empty space, invisible to every sensor the hegemony possessed. How many ships do you have? Zektar whispered. This sector about 50? Turner said casually. In human space overall, that information is classified. 50 ships. 50 advanced warships just in this one small area of space. Zektar tried to imagine how many ships humanity might have in total. The number made him feel sick. What happens now? He asked. 2 hours later, Commander Zektar sat alone in the white room aboard the Ghost Rider. His soldiers had been taken to separate cells, leaving him with nothing but his thoughts and the terrible knowledge of what he had discovered. The walls still showed the outside view. Human ships floated in perfect formation around them, their black hulls barely visible against the stars. Weapons that could destroy worlds pointed in every direction. It was like being inside a nightmare that would not end. The door whispered open. Captain Turner walked in, no longer wearing his armor. He looked like a normal human now. Average height, brown hair, nothing special about him. But Zektar had. Seeing what was hidden beneath that ordinary appearance, Commander Turner said, sitting down across from him, "We need to talk." Zektar said nothing. What was there to say? Everything he believed about humans had been proven wrong in the most devastating way possible. Your patrol fleet will be here soon, Turner continued. When they arrive, you're going to help us deliver a message to the hegemony leadership. The question is whether you want that message to be delivered by living officers or dead ones. Going to kill them? Zektar said dully. That depends on them. If they're smart, they'll listen and learn. If they're stupid, they'll try to fight superior forces with inferior weapons. Natural selection will take care of the rest. Turner touched a control pad on the table between them. The walls displayed new information, technical specifications. That made Zektar's head hurt to look at. Engine designs that violated known physics. Weapons that channeled forces he had never heard of. Defensive systems that could stop attacks from entire star systems. Do you understand what you're looking at? Turner asked. Zektar shook his head. The numbers and symbols might as well have been magic spells for all the sense they made to him. These are the specifications for a standard human patrol ship, Turner explained. Not a battleship. Not a special forces vessel. Just a regular patrol ship that we use for routine missions. The display showed a sleek vessel that looked nothing like the slow, clumsy ships that humans pretended to fly. This ship could travel faster than anything in the hegemony fleet. Its weapons could punch through the heaviest armor. Shields could deflect attacks that would vaporize entire planets. Every human ship you've ever inspected could have destroyed your vessel without effort, Turner said calmly. Every human crew you've ever pushed around could have turned your bones to ash. Every time you thought you were showing humans their place, you were actually being allowed to live. Zektar felt something cold settle in his chest. Why let Us humiliate you if you could stop us. Turner was quiet for a moment, staring at something Zektar could not see. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of old memories. Because we've been where you are now. 100 years ago, humanity was young and stupid and aggressive. We picked fights with everyone we met. We thought superior technology made us superior beings. We learned the hard way that the universe doesn't care about your opinion of yourself. The wall display changed to show star charts from human history. Systems that had once been populated now showed as empty space. Worlds that had been turned. Too glass by weapons too terrible to imagine. We fought a war against beings called the Devourers, Turner continued. They were old when our sun was young. They had weapons that could eat matter at the atomic level. Ships that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. We thought we could beat them because we had nuclear missiles and fusion reactors. Leaned forward despite himself. He had never heard of these Devourers. No one in the galaxy had. What happened? They destroyed half our colonies before we realized how outmatched we were. Billions of humans died because we were too proud to admit we were the primitive ones. We only survived because they got bored and moved on to fight something more interesting. The display showed images that made Zektar's stomach turn. Planets cracked open like eggs. Space filled with the debris of destroyed ships. Entire systems burning with fires that would never go out. After the war, we made a choice, Turner said. We could continue being the aggressive species that picked fights and made enemies. Or we could become something else, something better. So you decided to pretend to be weak. We decided to be patient. To watch and learn instead of conquering and destroying. To study other species instead of fighting them. To become strong enough that we never had to use our strength. Turner touched the control pad again. The walls now showed the current state. Of human space, thousands of worlds, millions of ships, billions of people living in peace and prosperity. Out. It worked, Turner said. For 200 years, we've avoided major wars by appearing harmless. We've learned about every species in the galaxy. We've developed technology that makes the Devourers look primitive. And we've done it all while everyone thought we were just another weak species struggling to survive. Zektar stared at the displays. The scope of human civilization was impossible to comprehend. They had more ships than the hegemony had soldiers. More worlds than some species had citizens. It's more knowledge than most civilizations accumulated in millennia. But now you're revealing yourselves, he said. Because you forced us to. We prefer peace, Commander, but we won't allow our people to be abused forever. Today, you crossed a line that we cannot ignore. The door opened again. A woman walked in wearing the uniform of a human medical officer. She was older than Turner, with gray hair and kind eyes, but she moved with the same quiet confidence that all these humans seemed to share. Commander Zektar, she said, in perfect hegemony standard. I am Dr. Rachel Stone. I need to examine you before we continue. Examine me? Why? Dr. Stone pulled out a device that looked like a simple medical scanner, because what you're about to see will challenge everything you think you know about reality. We need to make sure your physiology can handle the stress. She ran the scanner over Zektar's body, studying readings that appeared on its small screen. Blood pressure elevated but stable. Neural activity shows high stress but no damage. You should be fine. Fine for what? Zektar demanded. Turner smiled, but there was no warmth in it. For the full disclosure briefing, you wanted to know what humans are really capable of? We're going to show you. The walls around them dissolved, replaced by something that hurt to look at directly. Space folded in on itself, revealing layers of reality that existed beyond normal perception. Ships moved through dimensions that had no names. Weapons fired projectiles made of crystallized time. This is what we keep hidden, Turner said. This is why we pretend to be primitive. Because if the galaxy knew what we could really do, every species would unite to destroy us out of pure terror. Zektar tried to look away, but he could not. The images burned themselves into his mind, showing him technologies that defied every law of physics he had ever learned. Humans who moved between parallel universes as easily as walking through doorways. Machines that could rewrite the fundamental forces of nature. Stop, he whispered. Please make it stop. The walls returned to normal, showing only the simple starfield outside. But the damage was done. Zektar had seen behind the curtain, and he would never be able to forget what was hidden there. "Now you understand," Turner said gently. "This is what we're trying to protect the galaxy from. It's not conquest or destruction, but knowledge that most minds cannot safely contain. We stay hidden because revealing the truth would drive entire civilizations insane." Dr. Stone checked her scanner again. "He's handling it better than most. Hegemony physiology is more adaptable than we thought." "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you need to carry a very specific message back to your people," Turner replied. "And that message needs to be absolutely clear and completely believable." The captain leaned forward, his voice taking on the tone of someone delivering a final ultimatum. "Tell your leaders that humanity is no longer content to hide in the shadows. Tell them that the age of treating humans as inferior is over. Tell them that we have been patient for 200 years, but our patience has limits." Turner stood up and walked to the wall, placing his hand against the smooth surface. "Tell them that we prefer peace, but we are prepared for war.
Tell them
That we have weapons they cannot imagine and allies they have never heard of. Tell them that the choice between cooperation and annihilation is theirs to make." He turned back to face Zektar, and for a moment, the human's ordinary appearance flickered, revealing something vast and terrible underneath. "But most importantly, Commander, tell them that today was just a demonstration. One injured human brought 3 warships. Imagine what a dead human would bring. Imagine what an attacked colony would bring. Imagine what a threatened Earth would bring." Zektar shuddered. He did not want to imagine those things. The demonstration had been terrifying enough. "Your patrol fleet will arrive in 30 minutes, Turner said, checking a device on his wrist. "When they do, you're going to help us make sure they understand the new reality. Their response will determine whether they live to carry the message home." Dr. Stone packed up her medical equipment. "I've prepared a neural recording of everything you've seen today. When you return to Hegemony space, your leaders will be able to experience it for themselves. They'll know you're telling the truth." Admiral Sam Carter stood on the bridge of the Liberty, watching the approaching Hegemony patrol fleet on his tactical display. 6 ships moving in standard formation, completely unaware that they were flying into a trap that had been set 2 hours ago. "Enemy fleet will arrive in 5 minutes, Commander Amy Stone reported from her station. "They're maintaining normal approach speed. No sign they suspect anything." Sam nodded. The Hegemony ships looked impressive on the screen, sleek. Hulls covered with weapons, shields glowing with energy, formation tight and disciplined. To most species in the galaxy, this would be a terrifying sight. 6 warships arriving to investigate a problem. To Sam, they looked like children playing with toys. "Signal Captain Turner," Sam ordered. "Bring the prisoner to the communication room. It's time for him to earn his passage home." On the Ghost Rider, Commander Zektar walked between 2 human guards toward what they called the communication room. His legs felt weak and his hands shook slightly. Everything he had learned in the past few hours had left him feeling like a different person than the one who had boarded the New Horizon. "Your friends are about to arrive," Captain Turner said as they entered a room filled with communication equipment. "You're going to help us make sure they understand the situation." Through the room's window, Zektar could see his patrol fleet approaching. 6 ships that had seemed so powerful this morning now looked small and fragile next to the human vessels. Surrounding them, "What do you want me to tell them?" "The truth," Turner replied simply. "Tell them what you've learned. Tell them what will happen if they try to fight us. Give them a chance to make the smart choice." Turner activated the communication system. "Open a channel to the Hegemony flagship." The screen lit up with the image of Fleet Commander Gorak, Zektar's superior officer. Gorak was an old soldier with scars on his face and fire in his yellow eyes. He had fought in a dozen wars and won them all. "Commander Zektar," Gorak said, relief obvious in his voice. "We lost contact with your boarding party. Report your status." Zektar looked at Turner, who nodded encouragingly. "Sir, the situation has changed. The humans are not what we thought they were." Gorak's expression shifted to confusion. "You mean, are you injured? You look pale, sir. You need to stop your approach and listen very carefully." The humans have capabilities we never suspected. They have been hiding their true strength for centuries. That's ridiculous, Gorak snapped. Humans are primitive. Their ships are slow, and their weapons are weak. We've been inspecting them for 50 years. No, sir. They've been letting us inspect them. There's a difference. On the Liberty's bridge, Sam watched the conversation with interest. Gorak was reacting exactly as expected, with disbelief and anger. Most military commanders found it impossible to accept that their intelligence had been completely wrong. Admiral Amy reported, "The hegemony ships are still approaching. Range now 4 million kilometers and closing." "Let them come closer," Sam said. "They need to see this properly." Gorak was getting angrier as Zektar tried to explain the situation. "You're telling me that primitive humans captured you and 5 soldiers? That's impossible, sir. Look at your sensors. Really look at them." "How many human ships do you see?" Gorak turned to someone off-screen, probably his sensor officer. After a moment, his expression changed. "That can't be right. Our sensors show only one small research vessel."
"I'll watch,"
Zektar said. Turner nodded to his communication officer. Throughout the human fleet, stealth systems began shutting down one by one. Ships appeared on hegemony sensors like monsters emerging from a nightmare. First, the Ghost Rider became visible, its sleek black hull seeming to materialize from empty space. Then the Iron Wolf appeared, massive and bristling with weapons. Finally, the Liberty revealed itself. A ship so large it had its own gravity field. Gorak's jaw dropped as more ships appeared. Destroyers and cruisers and vessels of types he had never seen before. In seconds, his 6-ship patrol fleet was surrounded by 50 human warships. "This is impossible," Gorak whispered. Sir Zektar said urgently, "You need to listen to me. Do not engage these ships. Do not even target them. They have weapons that can destroy our entire fleet in seconds." But Gorak was a warrior, and warriors do not back down from fights. "All ships, battle stations. Target the largest human vessel." "No," Zektar shouted, but it was too late. On the Liberty, Sam watched the hegemony ships power up their weapons and turn toward his flagship. He felt a mixture of sadness and resignation. Another species that had to learn the hard way. Admiral Amy said, "They're targeting us." Weapons charged and locked. "Show them what they're really facing," Sam ordered. Amy's fingers moved over. Her controls, Liberty's true nature, began to reveal itself. Hull plating slid away to expose weapon systems that had never appeared on any alien sensor scan. Energy fields that had been hidden for 200 years blazed to life around the ship. The massive vessel seemed to grow as its real size became apparent. What had looked like a large battleship was actually something the size of a small moon. Weapons that could crack planets emerged from hidden compartments. Shields that could stop attacks from entire fleets activated with a sound like thunder. "Dear spirits," Gorak breathed, staring at his sensor readings. "What is that thing?" The other human ships were undergoing similar transformations.
"The ghost."
Ryder revealed stealth capabilities that made it appear to exist in several places at once. The Iron Wolf launched hundreds of fighters that moved faster than anything Gorak had ever seen. Sir Zektar pleaded, "This is what I was trying to tell you. We never understood what we were dealing with. Please, order your ships to stand down." Gorak's pride would not let him surrender without a fight. "Fire all weapons." The hegemony fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes and kinetic rounds streaked toward the human ships. It was an impressive display of firepower that could have destroyed a small planet. The human ships did not even bother to dodge. The attack struck their shields and simply disappeared. It's not reflected or absorbed, just gone, as if they had never existed. The energy weapons winked out of existence the moment they touched the human defensive fields. The plasma torpedoes unraveled into their component atoms. The kinetic rounds turned to dust. "Possible," Grok said weakly. Sam's voice came over the communication channel, calm and patient like a teacher explaining something to a slow student. "Fleet Commander Gorak. I am Admiral Sam Carter of the Human Defense Force. You have just witnessed a small demonstration of our defensive capabilities. Would you like to see our offensive capabilities as well?" The Liberty's main gun began to charge. It was a weapon the size of a skyscraper, designed to fight enemies that existed beyond normal space and time. Energy that had been borrowed from the hearts of dying stars gathered in its firing chamber. Gorak's sensor officer was shouting readings that made no sense. "Sir, the energy readings from that weapon exceed the output of our home star. One shot from this gun could turn your entire fleet into its component particles." Sam continued in that same calm voice. "Your ships would not explode. They would simply cease to exist on a molecular level." The weapon's charge reached critical levels. Space itself began to bend around the gun barrel as forces beyond normal physics gathered for release. "Please, Ektar," begged his commander. "Order the fleet to surrender. They're not bluffing." Gorak stared at the impossible readings on his screens. His entire worldview was crumbling just as Zektar's had hours earlier. Everything he thought he knew about human capabilities was wrong. "All ships," he said finally, his voice barely a whisper, "stand down. Power down all weapons." Sam nodded approvingly. "Wise choice, Commander." Captain Turner, "Release the prisoner." A few minutes later, Zektar found himself back aboard his own ship, standing on the bridge next to Gorak. The fleet commander looked like he had aged 10 years in the past few minutes. "Did they let you go?" Gorak asked. "They want me to carry a message back to the hegemony leadership," Zektar replied. "The age of treating humans as inferior is over. We can choose cooperation or annihilation." Around them, the human fleet was already disappearing again. Ships faded back into stealth mode until only the New Horizon remained visible. The small research vessel that had started this whole incident looked innocent and harmless once more. But now everyone knew the truth. "What do we tell the High Command?" Gorak asked. Zektar thought about everything he had seen and learned, the vast scope of human civilization, the weapons that could rewrite reality, the patience that had kept humanity hidden for 2 centuries. "Tell them that the galaxy just changed forever," he said, "and we pray that our leaders are smart enough to accept the new reality." The hegemony fleet turned and began the long journey home, carrying news that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. Behind them, the human ships watched from the shadows, ready to step fully into the light for the first time in 200 years on Earth. Lights began coming on in government buildings as word of the demonstrations spread. Humanity had revealed its hand at last. The galaxy would never be the same.